Welcome to the Monday Morning Podcast. Today I talked to Chris Brophy of HireMe. HireMe is about to IPO, and it's an automation company specifically focused on the labor market. I think they'll disrupt the recruitment industry, so it's very exciting. Have a listen. Hi, Chris. How are you going?
Lachlan, well, and yourself?
Very well, thank you. You're about to list, Chris. The company's called HireMe. I was wondering if you could give us a brief overview of the business model and your operations.
So in essence, Lachlan, HireMe Limited, we built it off a foundation which is on Contractor. And on Contractor was a labour hire business. But fundamentally what we are is a technology-enabled recruitment and labour hire company. From a corporate structure, we've got the limited entity, but under that, the two different divisions, which is on Contractor, providing labour hire services, and then HireMe Recruitment, which is a fixed fee recruitment service.
And automation of labor forces is certainly the wave of the future. I think a lot of people are paying attention to this. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about how your technology works and I guess how you implement it.
Yeah, Lachlan, if you're going to have a look at a number of articles online and articles that have been published by recruitment firms and labour hire firms, in essence, it takes a business about 40 to 68 days to either hire or to recruit somebody, alternatively place them as a contractor in their business. But the process itself is fundamentally flawed, right? In essence, the majority of bricks and mortar businesses will go into a process whereby they'll put on a job board. From there, they'll then have to rationalise the hundreds of thousands of resumes they've got to receive, and they'll utilise an engine or boiler room, which is made up of individuals. That will then go through a process. They've got to go through verification, and the entire process is manual. And it kind of trips over itself time and time again. Whereas for us, in its simplest form, clients place a scope online. The scope is pretty intuitive, and the user interface is pretty simple. So in essence, if you can write a Word document, you most certainly can place the scope. We've got a machine learning and AI algorithm, pardon me, that then matches your scope to a pool of resources or community members on our platform. What's important to note in that is the community members are pre-verified, so we've checked working rights, we've checked their qualifications and their skills and certification, and the algorithm seeks that out and then presents the client with effectively the best match. So removes all the bias, but also shortens that entire process far more than what your traditional process would be. Further to that, we don't have the costs associated with it. The algorithm's paid for. We don't have to pay for buildings, etc. And then from there, of course, we go down the paradigm of the hiring process. But in essence, we save a fair bit of time. We save a fair bit of cost in terms of the administrative burden, not only within our organisation and hand those savings back to the client, but in the client's organisation too.
Well, efficiency is more important now than ever. I think it's a very exciting technology and idea. I was wondering if you could tell us a bit more about the macro side of things, what you're seeing in Australia. Is there a labour shortage? The borders have been closed. And I guess how your company fits into that overall landscape.
I suppose let's try to have a look at the market from an overall perspective, and we'll kind of rationalise that down then to an industry perspective. So we operate in a market which is about $40 billion in spend in Australia. So it's 25 million of that is labour hire, and about $15 million of that is recruitment. Further to that, you've got about 9,000 odd participants in the space on both sides of that equation. So a highly saturated market, low barriers to entry, and therefore you see the competition that you do. But so you've got a saturated market trying to service a market which is effectively shorter in skills majority of the time. You know, Australia fundamentally has a crowding out effect in terms of investment based on this. You've got a change in the requirements of skills going forward as well. You know, we're not looking at the same positions that we used to look at anymore. So you bring those two things together, the saturated market, an old way of doing things, you've got the crowding out effect. You've got a recipe for disaster in essence. Now, I mean, we've been on the journey for 2 years, and fundamentally, technology was always going to underpin a change in that. And you can see some of the rhetoric coming out of the bigger players and your bigger providers saying that they need they need to invest in technology. But COVID's been a catalyst for that. Border closures, everything else. How do we fit into that? Well, I mean, in its simplest form, geographic location, well, guess what? We're cloud-based. You can log on anywhere. You can find resources anywhere in Australia. From a skill sets perspective, because we have the algorithm, because we actually rationalize and match to a skill set and not just the qualification, your matching is far quicker and therefore far more access to resources. But one thing between us and the job board and any other providers, we've got a contract which is a conduit for individuals that are looking for work, connecting them to organizations that are looking for people. So fundamentally, people know what they're going for is realistic. So it's not expressions of interest. How can we kind of change things going forward, Lachlan? I think we are catalysts for change in terms of how the market looks for people and how clients actually engage with resources. But from an investment perspective, I suppose your guess is as good as mine, right?
Yeah. I'm curious, what specific industries do you really want to focus on? Is there a particular sort of industry that you're really targeting at the start here, or is it just sort of a broad-based approach?
We started off focused on resources, infrastructure, and utilities, and that's just because some of our backgrounds came from that space, and therefore we understood it. But the algorithm and the platform is most certainly industry agnostic. So we service all the way from traditional admin roles to grey collar to blue collar, all the way up to engineering roles, right? And it's so in essence, as long as you've got a requirement and we can match that to an existing database, so there's nothing really that changes. But where do we really want to focus? I think we're going to continue down the same paradigm that we have. We understand the market we've operated in. We might certainly want to head down the space of healthcare, etc. But like I say, we're industry agnostic, so it's dependent on the register clients that actually join us.
Okay, well, I guess my next question is after that, where do you see HireMe in 2 to 3 years? I know it's a big question, but what are your ambitions and also, I guess, what are some of the near-term goals?
So the very first near-term goal was essentially getting the listing done. If you look at where we've come from, I mean, we started in 2018 and FY18 revenues of about 80,000, or estimated at 80,000. FY19 just under $1 million, just under 900,000. FY20 6.2 mil in revenue, and of course, COVID has slowed things down, but our revenue base is growing for this year. Through that entire period of time, in essence, we've raised less than $4 million to not only build a platform, but to grow our business. So, I mean, we've called it bootlegged almost all the way. So, first step is, share this with the rest of the market, and the best way to do that is via listing process on the ASX. Second to that then is actually go and execute the strategy, and our strategy in the first instance was very simple. We took competitor-based focus, which was focused on ourselves, rather than the external index we operated in, set a pricing ceiling, and by virtue of that, invested in tech rather than people. Next is actually focusing on a client-based, customer-based strategy. So, we have released HireMe Recruitment, but we'll release adjacent services as we go. One of those would be a SaaS model. I mean, SaaS is, people talk a lot about SaaS, but I mean, to be fair, if you look at the SaaS market in the space, it's only about 500 mil. We'd like to take that and actually make it a hybrid of traditional recruitment and labour business already, and go and access the additional of the 40 billion that's available. But that's a short term, so nice and steady over the next 6 to 12 months. But throughout that period of time, we're investing in the platform. We're building up the AI and machine learning to the extent that we feel that it'll be ready for that SaaS model. But what we'd like to do is most certainly going to change the market in this space. Traditional bricks and mortar business, if you look at what most of the people that operate in those businesses want to do, they want to start their own business. They just don't have the working capital requirements. They don't have the technology. By virtue of what we're releasing a SaaS model, we'll be able to underpin that business for them. Therefore, our SaaS model will be a little bit different in terms of being able to provide people the ability to start their own venture. So we're quite excited. That's 2-3 years from now, and it is most certainly a big change. what the market's used to. But we'll see how we go over the next couple of years, right? Things change and we're small and we can pivot.
One final thing, would you call it sort of recruitment or employment as a service, RAAS? I mean, what do you reckon about the acronym there?
It's not bad. I think you might have just penned something for us, right?
Yeah.
So, let's see. And do you know what? The funny thing you should say that, why I like it is everybody goes, it's technology, and we've got, yes, technology, but we have taken a fundamentally driven business and enhanced it via tech. Right? So fundamentally driven labor hire and fundamentally driven recruitment service, overlay technology onto that, and guess what? You probably have what you've just mentioned, right?
I like your business model because I think a lot of people are getting ripped off in the recruitment game at the moment.
Mate, they are. The recruiters have got this thing where it's we've got this black book of individuals, right? No, you don't. It's you're going to market by job boards and every other mechanism that you can find, right? And don't get me wrong, we do that and we build our pool up, but our profiles are succinct, they're verified.
Yep.
But if you went to go and recruit let's say $100,000 position, which is, call it a benchmark, you're paying between 15 to 25% on top of $100,000. So that's 15 to 25 Gs. For us, it's $4,500 flat. So if you got a $200,000 wage, it's $4,500 flat.
Well, that sounds pretty good. I mean, one of the things I've noticed with a lot of these recruitment companies is the amount of middlemen involved is just wild. I mean, there's the lead recruiter, then there's the sub recruiter, and then and all along the way the steps are completely messed up. I mean, really. You've got such a large pool of data there to work with. I mean, surely, it's just automation is what you have to do.
Well, this is the thing. So, Lachlan, you're taking a set of data points, which is the data that you're looking for, the individual and the skill sets, and you're trying to match it to another set of data, which is the individuals that's walking around looking for work, right? But now, traditional business, what they do is they fundamentally overlaid exactly the way you said. So you've got a boiler room full of 20-year-olds actually taking 1,000 resumes. So hypothetically, you're looking for an engineer, whatever it might be. These 20-year-olds, no work experience, take a template and ask a couple of questions. By virtue of that, they rationalize the 1,000 down to 100, which is their shortlist, call it. Right? So they're getting rid of the airline pilots that are looking for a new job. They're getting rid of the janitor that's got a Cert 4 in engineering, fundamentally believes you can do the job. From there, they then hand that to the client. The client then actually does all the work, like you said. Because they've missed a couple of janitors, they've missed a couple of airline pilots, and of course they don't really know what you're looking for. They're just giving you a bulk service, but then they charge you at the end. Whereas for us, you log your scope, we then send you effectively profiles about 5 of them, and they're matched perfectly.
This could be a big thing. I mean, employment is so critical, and we do it so wrong these days. So, I mean, that's my final thought, is very disruptive, excellent idea, and I wish you all the best, Chris.
No, I appreciate it, Matt, and I think we're most certainly a catalyst for change, right? I think it's either going to be us, or there'll be others, and there'll be others like this, don't get me wrong. They will come, right? But hopefully we're the ones that are first, and, to be honest, I'd like to see us break the back of seat and everything else too, because it's not required.
Now, this is one more thing. Sorry, I'm sorry to take up so much of your time, but is there any interoperability with Seek or platforms like that? I'm just curious.
So, there's a multitude of players, and they all play in little blocks of what we do. So if you look at the entire paradigm, and if you break it down nice and sweet and simply, you've got a job need, which is a client side. They then have to go to market. So this is a Seek piece, which is your job boards, the going to market. Then you've got the matching, which is taking all that and matching it, of course, to the information. You've got verification, then you've got onboarding, right? Seek does market. We do the entire paradigm.
Okay.
So in essence, you can place a scope online with us for free. We do the entire service, but we don't charge you when you place a scope. Seek charges you $300.
Yeah.
But it's not needed, right? It's and the difference between us is we actually rationalize the information to the extent where you've got the profiles appear exactly the same format time and time again to the client, and they look exactly like the scope. Seek is different formats. You get Word documents, get images rather than PDFs and blah, 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 as people upload it. Whereas our AI machine learning parsing, we pass all the information from the client's resume, whatever the format, and create the scope.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing over and over. All we're trying to do is we're trying to take all those little blocks and try and shorten them as quickly as possible, but as succinctly as possible.
Yeah, it's a bit of archipelago out there at the moment. So,
Lachlan, it's not that complex, right? It's the thing is the labour recruitment market it's so behavioural. These people have been doing it for the same way for years and years and years and years, and that's why you get 9,000 of them, right? Now, rather than invest in tech, they all want to try and make money as quick as possible. So they invest in people. Whereas we went, right, we know we're going to be a loss-making business for 3-4 years, but we make a change. And at that point in time, the accretive revenue and the hockey stick effect takes over. And we're already starting to see that, right? So our pricing, cheaper, and we're not giving up margin. So the marginal benefit remains with the individual and with the client.
Yeah. And you got a nice dashboard, I'm sure. It's all sort of very easy to use. I'm curious about like the user interface and stuff like that.
So we'll continue to enhance the user interface. The dashboard is simple in its format, and we focus on user interface. I mean, the biggest thing for us is user journey, regardless of which way you look at it. And that's just because as the older generation leads the market, younger generation, we're so used to everything being to fingertips. So we're trying to get to, and fundamentally what we explain to the team and our tech team consistently is, if I go and try and book a movie or buy tickets or do anything, and I'm on my phone, the minute it asks me to plug in credit card details, you've lost my sale.
Yeah.
I want to be able to, at a click of a button, do what I need to do. So that's what we're trying to do, right? So pass the individual information so they don't have to do that work. Therefore, we get the profiles quicker. The semantic matching, so from a client's perspective, profiles are logged the scopes are logged, but we'll continue to build on those. And it's predictive, right? So you start typing, something might pop up for you because you've typed it before. We'll pop in AI chatbots on either side of the equation to try and enhance it even further. And inevitably, you'll get to a point where it'll be as quick as a flash, or as quick as we can make it, right? But no cost difference. We love what we're doing at the moment. Like, we love this business. If it wasn't for that, who knows where we'd be, right? Some of the team members have been with me for a long time and stuck with us. And they stuck with us because they believed in it, right? So we're lucky. I'm lucky to be supported by the board that I have, and I'm lucky to be supported by the team that I have, But yeah, we're going to make a change.
Well, that was a great chat with Chris Brophy of HireMe. I was really intrigued by the idea of a scalable model that could disrupt the recruitment industry. There's a lot of inefficiency there, I think, and I really enjoyed this chat. So if you like this kind of content, be sure to like, subscribe, get in touch, and bye for now.